Well, we're back, and it's the Hamptons International Film Festival, the 25th year.
Yes, it is.
The silver anniversary, and here with filmmaker Jeff Sharp, and the film is called Yellow Birds.
Yep.
I love yellow birds.
To be here. Thank you.
The yellow bird of paradise, they used to say.
That's right. That's right.
This movie, East Coast premiere, narrative, and it's 94 minutes in English, my favorite language.
Yes, perfect.
And if, not to give the whole plot away, but just a little thumbnail sketch for the...
The Yellow Birds is based on the best-selling, critically acclaimed novel by Kevin Powers, which was largely inspired by his own experience in Iraq as an Army soldier. It's a story about a young man who goes off to Iraq in 2004, meets a guy who's also from Virginia in boot camp. The two of them go off, best buddies, and one of them disappears, this young man, Murph. And his mother, Maureen, played by Jennifer Aniston, goes on a journey for answers into her son's disappearance. And so that's really the basis of the films.
So it's a heart-wrenching, you know, looking for your child, mother's love, through all thick and thin stuff.
It is.
And but what brought you to the project? I mean, it's something that, you know, is a heavy thing to put together.
Reading the book is really what inspired me. A lot of my films are based on books, and this is one of the most beautiful stories I've read in years. And it also offered an opportunity to tell a story about the war in a uniquely apolitical way. You know, I feel there have been some great films that have been told about, from an American's perspective, about war, whether it's Vietnam or Iraq, or and I didn't feel the need to make that story. But this one really captured my imagination because it was about the horrors of war, but without it being, you know, a story about
war and stuff,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But it strikes a chord, and the buzz among the community here is that it's really something that you know, has contention for like award-winning stuff, because it's done with such sensitivity. And when you're dealing with something of that subject, and you're right, it's been, you know, a lot of different, it's cut up a lot of different ways, from Platoon to all these, you know...
American Sniper more recently.
Right, and it runs the gamut. But this thing is has a sensitive, unique take, which is refreshing, and gets the message out very strongly. And basically, in putting it together, I'm wondering about the talent. How did you select the actors and the screenwriters and the directors and all that other stuff? How did you put it all together?
I'll go back to the book again, because it really helps when you have a beautiful book to share with writers, directors, actors. It gives a sense of focus and a sense of urgency to telling the story. David Lowery, a beautiful screenwriter who wrote and directed Ain't Them Bodies Saints, Pete's Dragon for Disney, adapted the story, very quiet, lyrical adaptation. And then Alexander Morris, who's a French-American director, had that quality of an international director who's looking at this from a slightly different viewpoint than perhaps an American director. Yeah, quite neutral. So that was the creative team. And then in casting, we looked for two young men who would play the part within the right age range. So, you know, oftentimes when you're casting young men, you cast older actors because they're more famous and it adds more value. Right. So you're always playing a little bit of that.
You just described Rob Lowe's whole career.
Yeah, well...
he's available, you know.
Yeah, okay. Love Rob Lowe. But Alden Ehrenreich and Ty Sheridan are these magnificent young actors who play the roles of Murph and Bartle. And at the time, Ty Sheridan was 18 when we cast him.
Wow. And
Alden in his early 20s, just about ready to go off and play Han Solo in Star Wars. And so, you know, really young men at the very beginning of their career. And then balancing that with these two mothers, Toni Collette, who I'd made 3 movies with at that point. Brilliant. One of the great actors of our generation. And then Jennifer Aniston, who had just distinguished herself with a film called Cake. Really stretching, you know, new dramatic territory for herself as an actor. And yet this character, this mother, Maureen, is also someone we all have to relate to. So Jennifer Aniston is someone we've known. You know,
right, but to approach this role with such depth is amazing. It's terrific. But we're very proud of you being here, and we really appreciate you spending the time with us. Again, it's the East Coast premiere, narrative, 94 minutes, The Yellowbirds, and it's well worth a look.
Southampton on Sunday.
You know, being one of the film commissioners, it begs the question, Jeff, and I know you're a local guy. In making films, especially here on the eastern end of Long Island, we always try to encourage filmmakers of the caliber that you are to kind of bring the industry here. What do you think about that? What do you think about making it right in your own hometown, more or less?
Yeah, well, you know, I've spent my summers in East Hampton my entire life, and I was part of the crew that launched this film festival in 1993 when I was in film school. And I'm chair of the advisory board here at the Hamptons as well. So I've had a long-standing connection to this place, this community. And as a filmmaker, you know, I've taught at the middle school and the filmmaking workshops and the screenwriters workshop. So I have a real commitment to this community and to giving back much of what I've gained in my career and bringing it back home and sharing it here. As a filmmaker, you know, sharing my work here and screening it for this audience is really special. It means I get to have my family and my friends here, which is, you know, after being away in Morocco for 4 months, you know, it was pretty nice. My son, who's 7, is like, where were you? What were you doing? So,
What did you bring?
Yeah, exactly. So he'll be here. So it's really nice to share that with friends and family and neighbors and folks out here. But also, to your point, you know, I'd love to actually shoot out here, and that's been a lifelong dream, and I hope to do that at some point.
Well, the Film Commission hopes to streamline the permit process and all and to encourage that, because it's an industry that, quite frankly, helps with the economic development of, you know, the restaurants, the dry cleaners, the lumber yards, everything, the housing.
That's right.
And it's something that doesn't pollute. And it's a lot of fun, and it's an artist community of electronic, or, you know, the film sense, and we want to encourage that. So if we can help you out, you know, just contact the Film Commission. We kind of can stream things out for you.
Great. Well, thank you.
We're very proud of you, and being a local product of this town, it's really amazing. We're very proud of you. Doubly, triply proud of you. So thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, we look forward to it.
Thank you.
Of more than 90 countries is pursuing the networks of terror with every tool of law enforcement and with military power. We have arrested or otherwise dealt with many key commanders of Al-Qaeda. We meet here during a crucial period in the history of our nation and of the civilized world. Part of that history was written by others. The rest will be written by us. Across the world, we're hunting down the killers one by one. We are winning. We must look at security in a new way, because our country is a battlefield in the first war of the 21st century. The greatest danger in the war on terror: outlaw regimes arming with weapons of mass destruction. And other regimes will be given a clear warning that support for terror will not be tolerated and intimidate the civilized world, and we will not allow it.
What people join the Marine Corps to do. You might be in the Marine Corps for 20 years and never get this chance again to take down a full-fledged city full of insurgents.
Pretty much we said, hey, we're going to be here at this time, you know, if you want something, get some.
It's like trying to light a wet log. It doesn't want to catch on fire, but when it does, it'll smoke beyond your control.
Okay, for you boys and girls out there, no talking. This movie is called Novitiate, and it's about the transition that happened right after Vatican II. And I'm here with the director, and your whole family's involved with this as well, right?
Yeah, my dad and my sister have executive producer credits because they were just so supportive and like were like there throughout the whole process. But I mean, it's really they're not creatively involved. I mean, it was really myself.
It's like the Warner Brothers almost, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the Ringling Brothers.
Very good. Well, first of all, I know that you didn't go to Catholic school, right? But what brought you to this, Mother Teresa, pretty much, right?
Yeah. I completely accidentally, I was in an airport, 6 years ago, something like that. And I think it was right around the time that Mother Teresa died. And so I happened to find this book in the airport that was called Come Be My Light. And it was a compilation of all these letters that she'd written during the course of her life to various friends and confidants and people that were close in her life. And they were all just consumed with her relationship with God, who was her husband. And
but they wear the wedding ring on the right finger, right?
Yeah.
Right ring finger.
But the turmoil and the intensity and the passion of the relationship is something that I had never conceptualized before. There was no reason for me to think about it, so I wouldn't have thought one way or the other, but I was just blown away by how romantic the relationships that they had with God.
Powerful, and it's probably the most intimate of all relationships because when saints go into ecstasy, it defies any drug or any sexual experience because it encompasses,
and Mother Teresa, who I had always seen one way as one type of woman, just became this totally different, very extremist, very person living for their passion, and so that made me realize I knew nothing about nuns and that I had preconceived notions that were like totally different from what their life was really about. So that's sort of what got me going on the path. It was not by any means a strange thing. In fact, it was an admirable thing, and like to have a nun in your family was, prior to Vatican II, was like having a cop in your family or having a politician in the family. It's like somebody who ascended to a pretty impressive and highly respected role in society.
And there was always an element of secrecy, an element of reverence, and they were not really, we had them as teachers, so I owe them a debt of gratitude. I learned to read and write, and my penmanship is very good. And they worked long hours for no pay, and they were totally devoted to their children. And it was like a thing that was, and in those days, that education was second to none. I mean, you had...
the nuns came over really at the turn of the century and built the Catholic school system in this country, which soon became like the standard bearer of like private schools in America. So nuns really created an education system that was like at that time bar none, and it was the most sort of like upwardly mobile.
Yes,
So, so if people started making more money, sending your kid to parochial school was a sign that you'd kind of made it. You know, it was like,
Yeah, but understand this. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and there was parishes. Every block had its own parish and churches. It's called the City of Churches, Brooklyn, in those days. But, and I came from a working class background. We didn't pay tuition to go to Catholic school. I think it was voluntary, and I believe, and you know, my parents had to, you know, really struggle for it. They paid like maybe $5 a month or some ridiculous thing.
In my movie, the scholarship program, at a certain point they became really flush with cash, as did the convents, and they could afford that. But yeah, like in my movie, the girl gets a scholarship too. It's, you know, it's like,
and also families that they would endow parishes and convents with property, with you know, stock in AT&T and all these great things. And you're right, they were flush with money, and they had you know, the ability to build hospitals.
The recruitment for convents was like all-time high right before Vatican II. They had an enormous amount of money. They were completely sort of self-contained, meaning like they belonged to the diocese, but they were sort of self-operating. Nobody was really like interfering.
They owned their own property.
They owned their property, and then Vatican II just created this upheaval.
That was the thing too, that the hierarchy of the church, male, the bishops, they would sort of run shotgun over the convents, and they would really decimate the religious orders of their property. And they had that attack from the hierarchy. But anyway, what happens is that your film really is a sensitive piece, and I mean, you don't have to be Catholic to enjoy it, because it shows the struggle of women. And you had a group of these 20-year-old women, and you did it beautifully with the way, as young people, and I don't know how you sort of got them all together and to behave as if they were in the convent, but you did a great job, and it makes it very believable, and it gives us a glimpse of that point in history, which is remarkable. And what's your next step? What are you going to do next?
I have two projects I'm working on. I really, you know, I kind of am very like devoted to the idea of making as many movies as possible where I can have a predominantly female cast, or where it's a movie that's way more about the woman's or female experience than the male experience, only for the sake of balance. So the two projects that I'm working on now are completely different from novitiate and from religious issues and all that kind of stuff, but they have the same situation of a predominantly female cast and of, to a certain extent, a David and Goliath relationship between a woman who's, you know, I sort of consider the Reverend Mother like that, a woman who's like the individual against an institution that is in some way trying to take their rights away.
The other thing is, I have to ask you two questions. First of all, did you go to film school?
I did not, no.
Very good. So you're self-trained, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I studied film theory and analysis like rigorously in college and then through my 20s, and I did a lot of creative writing. So the writing component, I had to learn the structure of screenplay writing, but the how to create characters, all that kind of stuff. I had a background in, and I was quite good at photography. I was quite into photography. So the rest of it, I just, you know, this is my third project, so I just.
And the last question is this: what format did you use? What type of cameras? What type of?
We used the Alexa, which is digital. It's a widescreen format. It's like a super wide movie. And I believe we used a lot of prime lenses. My DP would probably know like a little bit better.
And the sound was exquisite. It was beautiful sound.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best.
Because we shot in those places that are built for that, like the churches and things that are built for that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
A nun? Oh, Kathleen. You're a 17-year-old girl.
I was called, and I'm going to become a nun, and there's really nothing that you can say that's going to make me change my mind.
Good afternoon, all of you. Since, unfortunately, God can't be here to run this convent himself, my voice will serve as a stand-in for his. You'll be spending the next 6 months as postulants. After that, you'll enter the novitiate. Any questions? Put your hand down, sister. Postulants don't have questions. And you are free to go home.
What is this you're reading?
Something to do with this Vatican II. Our Pope has suddenly turned himself into some sort of reformer.
Well, that's a good thing. Perhaps change is
You
good.
think the church is in need of change? I happen to think the church is perfect the way it is.
Are you still encouraging all of your novitiates for extreme acts of penance?
I would like you to use the discipline on yourself.
That's got to stop.
I don't think you really understand what this will do to us.
We're not supposed to think about each other because we're not here for each other. We are here only for God.
Maybe I could just touch your hand for a second.
We're really not supposed to touch like that.
What is going on here? She looks like she's dying. I think it's wrong of you to keep us in the dark.
The church gave me my work, my community, even my identity. And now the church is trying to invalidate all that, saying none of it matters. So my question is, what is it that really does still matter?
Killer bees, my favorite kind of bees. They make the best honey, right?
That's right, of course. They play the best basketball, too.
And I'm here with two brothers. You know, I'm in business with my brother, so I sympathize with you guys.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Well, if anyone does anything too bad, we can always just call our mother.
Yeah, well, that's
to mediate disputes.
I know, my mother used to be able to do that very well, but she's gone since 2000, so we're kind of left on our own. But we have a lot of videotape of her, you know, saying, don't do that, put that down, don't run around the house with that sharp object. But those running days are over anyway. Killer Bees, and it's a great story about an excellent, legendary, fantastic basketball team right here in Bridgehampton. And if you're on 27, you'll actually pass by their homestead. You'll actually see the B logo. Yep. I love the shirts, guys. Those are terrific.
Thank you.
But what made you make this project?
Well, it started well, first we went to school there. And we participated in the basketball program. And one of our classmates, friend of ours from school there, Facebook messaged me with Coach Carl and thought that the time had come to tell the story of this team and this school. Because as we all know, the Hamptons are changing very rapidly and cultures are changing, gentrification, and that maybe this rich tradition at the Bridgehampton School and basketball was not long for this world, and somebody should tell it sooner rather than later.
And the story actually parallels not only the basketball and everything, but the fact of how the community, no matter what race, creed, national origin, around the issue of, you know, in Bridgehampton, there's no feeling of prejudice or discrimination.
Well, I think it's important to point out that there's two worlds. You know, there's the world that comes to the games that you'll see in the winter, which is a community very tight-knit, and it's just like you described. But there's also a divide between that community and the community that comes out here for the summer, which is very wealthy, celebrity, completely different world. So
that's why they build their own schools.
So it's interesting to see, you know, the reaction to people who knew nothing about this other world, that it exists.
Right.
And I think that the team really is an expression of their desire to be heard. Anyway.
Yeah, that always, I'm here over 30 years, and that always amazed me about the fact of that, you know, if you're a property owner, you're paying a lot of real estate tax and school tax to send your kids to the local school. And if you're in an area, let's say south of the highway by the ocean, that thing doesn't really pay much. First of all, the tax is a lot lower than somebody up in the Springs.
Right.
And the other issue is the fact of the schools. Mm-hmm. You know, the spring school needs a lot more.
Yeah.
Than,
these issues do come up a lot, and part of the storyline is the history of the school closing battles, which were huge political fights about keeping the school open over the years. And it was at one point actually
in the 90s.
Closed. And they had to go upstate and fight it. And there's a famous story during a playoff game. The team was losing, and they thought they were done. The school had been closed. And at halftime, someone raced down from upstate, got to the team, told them that they reversed the vote. And the team was so positive and elated. They went out and went on a wild run. And this is a true story. They won the playoff game, and they went on to win the title that year.
It was like their spinach.
It was like their Hoosiers spinach.
Hoosiers
situation.
moment.
Yeah.
Wow, what a beautiful story that is.
Yeah. So it's a very special place for us growing up, where we did right around the corner, and it was also one of the reasons why I think Coach Carl and them reached out. They reached out to us is because they would be open, since we knew a lot of their parents and uncles we went to school with. So,
did you guys go to film school or
no? No, I studied politics, and Orson studied economics, which we figured was applicable to
very
film.
funny in business. But we did go to the North Carolina School of the Arts for a program to study some.
For a summer program.
And you always work together.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, even as children, you work together. Pretty much.
No, not as kids.
Yeah.
Different jobs. Except at Dan's papers.
No, but I mean, you collaborated on, you know, like if you wanted to build something. Or you wanted
Of course.
to do something,
Yeah,
you know,
same as all brothers.
There's a lot of history of brothers and sisters, siblings working together in film, because I think there's a lot of pressure, and it's nice to have somebody with you along the way, because it takes a long time.
And it's an industry that you don't. It's not a 9 to 5, 7 day a week, or
Right.
you know,
Certainly
5 day a
not.
week job. It's 24 hour, and in the
Yeah.
middle of the night you might call them and say, hey, you know, let's do this and let's do that. How about that crane shot that we were talking about? And
Right.
Sure.
All that stuff. But it's amazing. And Shaquille O'Neal, how did you get him involved in this?
Well, a friend of ours named Glenn Furman, who became the executive producer, helping us raise some finance, has an art foundation called Art Flag Foundation, and he became friends with Shaquille O'Neal, who curated some shows for him. So then he showed him the teaser we had cut together for the Bees movie, and he jumped on and wanted to participate. So
Isn't that great? That's
yeah.
terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific. A brother-in-law of mine is a blackjack dealer, and a lot of the guys, when they come to Las Vegas, he hits the high roller fellas, and a lot of the basketball guys, no names please, are at his thing. And he says that it's amazing how if they get behind a project or a charity, that it just lights everything up. And
Shaquille O'Neal in particular may be one of the physically most recognizable human beings on the entire planet.
Even if he wears you know, sunglasses and a derby, you'll know that it's him.
You know it's Shaq.
So anyway, we hooked up with him, and we hooked up with Larry Gagosian, who's an art dealer, who's another really terrific guy to have behind the film, and it gave us a lot of buzz, and it was really helpful. They really lent it a lot of support and kind of brought some of these two worlds we talked about together, which was interesting.
Now, your next project, I know you're planning your next hit, so are you working, not to give it away, but are you...
yeah, we are working on something, so we're typing the keys, and
good.
We're staying busy, and we're excited for, we're going to show at the festival. We premiere tonight, 6 o'clock in Sag Harbor at Bay Street Theater.
Excellent.
And we're going to show Southampton, 6:30 and 9. And then because they sold out, there's a show added tomorrow.
Very good. Now, if people want to know more about the movie, or a lot of finance people are in town, as you know, and they're always itching to get involved with a project. Here's a project, local guys, two local guys.
KillerBeesMovie.com.
KillerBeesMovie.com. They get in touch with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And we're very proud of you. When I saw the fact that it was two brothers behind this movie, I said, it has to be good, because it's, you know, it's the, unlike my brother and I, are the Menendez brothers of television, but it's a whole different thing. But I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the festival. And
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you
Thanks for
on our
the interview.
air.
And it's a stadium filled with white fans, coaches, players, and announcers. They called this black man's name. With jazz in his stride, he broke through the color lines, broke through the cage of segregation. He stood in the eye of racism's storm and took on the hate that he was facing. 1950, the turn of the century, a decade after the Great Depression, and this first step echoed throughout the world. The nation. Outside the arena, strange fruit would hang from trees. At certain times you could smell death that was carried by the breeze. You were either living Jim Crow's nightmare or the great American dream. But through marches and sit-ins, equality was slowly being found in the streets and the Supreme Court. In the meantime, Earl played on despite being refused by hotels, restaurants, and other teams when they visited those sundown towns. His battle was fought on the court. Guided by strength and will, loved by many, his strength you could feel. That's why he was first. The NBA's first black player, the first black champ. He was first, before Bill Russell, before Wilt Chamberlain, before Oscar Robertson, Dr. J, before Kareem the Magic, before Jordan, before Kobe, before LeBron, before Durant and Rose amazed millions with moves that they practice and rehearse. Chuck Cooper, Sweetwater Clifton, and Earl Lloyd were the first to be chosen. They paved the way for future hoop dreams to become a reality. Their first steps became golden.
So we're fortunate to have here at the Hamptons International Film Festival, 25th year, the silver anniversary. You were mere youngsters.
Special year, right?
I
was a toddler.
Toddler.
Yeah.
And I was like probably, I don't know, in the army. But anyway, Cootie and Chike,
yep.
the two unusual names, of which I tell you, since they're not copyrighted, my brother and I are going to use them. We're going to get rid of Greg and Ernie. We're going to be Cootie and Chike.
Greg and Ernie's dope too, though.
No, I don't know.
I like that.
It only can go so far, you know. World premiere documentary USA, 88 minutes, the first to do it. And we always thought about, you know, Jackie Robinson was the first, and, President Obama was the first, and James Brown was the first. Hardest working man in show business, I might add. But you guys did this movie, and it's really a story, inspirational story that had to be told. And how did you get into this? First of all, are you friends, lifelong friends, and filmmakers for a long time that you kind of got into this, or basketball players, or?
Well, I'm born and raised in Chicago, and I just fell in love with film, like shooting. So I had a camera, and I started shooting this artist Kanye West, and I said I'm gonna do a Hoop Dreams on Kanye, and come to find out he wound up moving to New York, and then I moved to New York, and then they wanted to do it You Hear It First on MTV, and when I went there to help produce that, they was like, we want you to meet all the cool people at MTV. They brought me down to Chike.
Yeah, and we had been doing a lot of music videos at first, but then we ended up doing, and this is mainly from him being from Chicago, we did a 30 for 30 called Benji, about a basketball player out of Chicago, 1984, that was shot and killed before his first game, going into his senior year in high school. And so off of the backs of that film, we started having a lot of people coming to us, especially sports films related. We ended up doing a Muhammad Ali doc after that we won an NAACP Image Award for.
Wow.
But during that interim between the Benji and the Ali film, that's when this film came to us, and he can really tell you because he got the first call about this project.
My friend Donnie Kursky out of Chicago, who is like best friends with Juwan Howard, ran into Coach Poore at West Virginia State. And Coach Poore came up to him and said, "You know the first person to play in the NBA?" And he like, "Dang, I don't know that. Who is it?" He was like, "Earl Lloyd, and he's alive." So right away, and he's alive. So right away they called me, and they asked me the question. I'm like, I don't know who. They told me. I'm like, oh, I called Chike. Who the first? He didn't know. So, it was destined to tell this man's story.
Did he reveal what his pay was at that time?
Actually, it's in the story too. He said it wasn't that much, but it felt like a lot to him at the time. Actually, then, so much were in.
But the Nike contract.
Those didn't exist. Those didn't exist.
Coca-Cola and those things.
Yeah, those didn't exist. Those didn't exist.
I think Converse, though. I think they did wear Converse.
Right, but they might just really been wearing Converse. Probably. They was probably paying for their Converse.
Right.
And the original uniforms in basketball were horrible with those, those shorts.
Tight shorts.
Not exactly the most attractive.
Daisy Dukes.
Daisy Dukes. It's unbelievable. But that's amazing. But, and it's something that really should be asked. Like, who's the first?
Absolutely, especially when you paved the way for so many people to have an opportunity to have luxurious careers. I think that when you're a part of that, just like within hip hop or with anything that you're the first of, when you open the doors up for other people to be able to participate in, you should always be the first person that comes out of their mouth as far as paying some homage to. You know?
I know a lot about being a pioneer, and there's a definition of a pioneer. You know what a pioneer is?
Yeah.
He's a guy that has all those arrows on his back. Because the first guy to go into territory, they just haul off and they just ice you.
Yeah.
And it's not a pleasant thing, but he actually broke the way, like Jackie Robinson broke the way for everybody else to follow and held the door open. You know? There are other people that climb the ladder of success and they pull it up after themselves.
Right.
But this guy didn't. He didn't do it for the glory or for the money.
Absolutely.
He just did it for the sport, which is admirable. Today, is he bitter? Is he satisfied with his life today? Or
with the moments that we got to interact with him when we were shooting the film, you got the sense of he was very content. He's a very humble guy. I think he cherishes the little things, family. He was able to see change, and then he was able to see there being not so much change. So I think what may have affected him more was seeing the lack of progress that we see today. I know that affected him.
Sure.
But I think also seeing Obama was amazing as well.
Absolutely.
So he kind of was a two-sided, double-edged sword.
Absolutely. I know one thing that he said that segregation served him well, because he said we lost a part of our community when that happened. It just wasn't done the right way. His wife Charlotte, she says it better. She said, she says, we did it, but it just wasn't done properly.
Right. She says it very eloquently, better than I can actually say it.
Exactly.
But
you'll see it in the movie.
Well, it's true because going through that point in history, it was we had a movie quite a few years ago, and it was about World War II, and it was a black detail of army people that were in combat, and they actually fought in Germany, and now they come back and they're on the trains, and they come back to their hometown down south, and the German POWs had it better than they did coming back to their own town.
It's crazy.
They had they wanted coffee or something. They had to go around in the back of the shop, and they just fought for freedom.
Right.
And the people that the Nazis, the prisoners of war, were being
treated.
treated like kings. They were eating pancakes and having everything. And these guys couldn't have anything. But it was typical of the fact of how the nation, where you love the country, you love the nation, and you want to do your best for your own pride, your family, and it's not. There's no reciprocal.
It's not reciprocated. Absolutely.
But the key is not to be defeated because of that.
Exactly.
Because the moment you give in to that, you're just like they are.
And it's like people want to see you bitter. They want that becomes that's what they want from you. And if you don't give them that, then people really focus on the real issue.
Then they win.
Then
they win.
Exactly.
I'm here with a face that is highly recognizable, not only here on the East End, but all around. And it's Amanda Renee Knox. I love the whole three-name thing,
Yeah, it's necessary to distinguish me from the other
one.
one.
Because I think SAG has a couple of Amanda Knoxes, right?
No, actually, but there's the other Amanda Knox. The Italy Amanda Knox.
Oh, we don't count her then.
And so, right. So it's I started using my middle name so that
that's terrific.
It's distinguishable.
Well, don't forget that name. That's the name to remember, Amanda Renee Knox. And the movie is a world premiere narrative, 18 minutes, which is about my attention span, for God's sake.
Perfect.
Night Call. And if you give us a little thumbnail sketch about it, then and she directed it, which is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Thank you. It is a film about a black female police officer who lives in Inglewood, California, who gets called to a disturbance on a routine patrol, and it's some kids from her neighborhood, and she's forced to make this decision that could change her life and his, and yeah, that's...
So you get all of the tensions that we face every day, like when a cop goes out on a call, could be, a devastating call, or it could be a routine call, and
cat in a tree.
Cat in a tree, or or a kid that unfortunately gets in the way of of a bullet, which isn't good.
Right.
This was your thesis.
It was my graduate thesis film. When I came here in 2009, I was an actress in a film, and I met a lot of people and started to produce. I just started connecting people, and my friend was like, "You're producing." So I started to produce, and then I realized that I really thought, I was like, maybe I could tell stories also. So I thought, you know, I'll do this one short, see how it goes, and
but
I
it
loved
begs
it.
the question, being an actress and being on this side of the camera, does it make you a better director? I mean, do you actually, when you direct, do you actually visualize what it must feel like for the actress?
I don't know if it makes me a better director, because I only have myself to measure that by. I think that any director who is open and empathetic and doesn't, I think those are the good directors, and I hope to be one of those directors. I think that I also am very interested in learning different languages, like different tools that the actors have. I still study. I'll go to scene study, or I'll go do a workshop, just that I can get different tools and tricks to work with.
Now, the format that this was shot in, what format did you use?
We used, the cameras we used were ARRI Alexa Plus, and we used an ARRI Mini. We also used a Phantom Cam. It's 185. And it's handheld, Verite. So, and Canon, we used Canon zoom lenses.
And you had video feedback from the cinematographer. You just stood behind them.
No, we had it was a very sort of nice setup. We had two nice monitors that we used, and they were connected to both of the cameras. So the cinematographer and I sat in Video Village and watched, and then I would communicate to him, and then he would communicate to his team. We had two camera ops, and we pulled focus, but because it was so fast moving, we didn't have a lot of time to set focus marks. We didn't have a lot of time to set focus marks, so the focus puller was amazing, and the camera ops were amazing. They were able to work really efficiently with each other, and I don't know how the focus puller got everything in focus, but she did. So
they're worth their weight in gold. So
yeah.
It's amazing, but it's terrific. And you enjoyed the whole process.
I enjoyed the entire process. It's not easy to make a film, but it's exhilarating.
Well, that's very exciting.
So much fun, like especially the action. I think my favorite, easiest day was the car chase. And we had a moto cam there, so I got to ride in the sidecar.
Any GoPros in the? No, you didn't use GoPro.
We wanted to use a GoPro for one of the shots, but GoPros require a lot of light, and so we shot at night, and we just didn't have the light. But we used
traditional stuff with that.
We used a Phantom Cam, which is, do you know? Well,
yeah.
Well, for those maybe people who don't know, it's a shot. It slows down the footage, so it's super, super, super slow motion. And I wanted to really get inside of her head at a certain point in the film, and
almost like a dream sequence.
Yeah, and we were able to use that. It was really
terrific,
fun.
And your acting team there was pretty great.
Pretty phenomenal.
How'd you find them?
I had been shadowing director on Chicago Med for 2 episodes, my second year at grad school, and I ended up teaming with my writer there, and then he wrote the script. Marlene saw it, read it, and she was like, I have to do this, and they let her come to shoot.
They let her up from the contract to do it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
I don't know if that's public knowledge.
No,
but
it's good.
Yeah, and then Rachel I knew from New York. Rachel is an amazing actress who is local to New York City, lives in LA now, but theater community, had just done Mad Dogs. And then Delaney Williams I was in a film with him, a short film, a million years ago, and I still had him in my cell phone. And I messaged him, and I was like, "Can you come be our captain?"
Wow.
And he said yes. And so he traveled out to LA for a weekend.
And what did the shoot take? A couple of weeks? Or?
It took 6.5 days of our 10. We were allowed 10 days, and it took we took 6.5.
Wow.
And
well, I tell you, very excited about it. So get a chance to see it. Narrative worldwide premiere, Night Call, 18 minutes, and world premiere, and it's going to be one of many student, student films. We've been doing this for 25 years, as long as the festival's been around, and it's always funny that we see a student film from years ago. Like the last time we interviewed you was 10 years ago, and I didn't, but one of our Julie interviewed you.
Oh, right.
And, and she was here. She actually spotted you, and she had a run. But Julie Walker, and it was amazing that I said, "Well, how many years ago was that?" And it was like 10 years. And I said, "Here you're back directing," and But we've had occasion where people come in as students, and then they have an Oscar a couple of years later, and we try to say, "Remember your interview back when you were a student?" Well, but that's the beauty of the Hamptons Film Festival, and in 25 years we've had a lot of those situations. But I'm so glad that you're in it nice and deep, and I look forward to many quality projects coming from you. And we wish you all the best. And thanks for being on our air. We really appreciate it. But don't wait so long. 10 years.
I mean, it takes a while to get a film made.
I know, but hurry back.
Okay,
hurry back.
I will. I'm working on it.
No release. Your image is just our volition. That's what we need. All right. So you're here. You're actually going in to see this movie?
Which movie are you talking about?
The
Jennifer Garner? No.
Jennifer Garner? No.
No,
that's on
we're waiting for this movie, The Wonderland.
Oh, Wonderland. That's a great movie.
Yeah?
Very good.
Is it good?
Good choice.
We're not waiting for nothing.
Good choice. No, you're doing good. The popcorn's good.
But we will go see Jennifer Garner's movie.
Oh, absolutely. It's terrific. It's an IFC movie.
Who are you speaking to?
He's speaking to a microphone.
Oh, okay.
It's Prison Network. It's the people that are shut in Riverhead. So, you're helping those. Yeah, it's all financial prisoners.
You've done this before.
So you're here. Is this the first time, or you remember, how far back do you go?
Every year, 5 years.
Every year?
Many years.
What's your most memorable time here? What favorite movie or conversation do you remember?
The night I saw back-to-back Black Swan and Thriller afterwards, and it was so intense and so wonderful.
Very good. And how about you, dear?
This is our first time.
Your first
Yeah,
time?
we saw some shorts this afternoon, and this will be the
Is it your
first
last
feature.
time?
No, this has been fun and very well organized.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's right over here, Loveless. Is that true?
I don't know. We haven't seen the movie yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
We are waiting online.
Loveless.
It is.
We are hoping that it would be like our marriage,
Love,
full of love.
I could see. How many years have you been married? How many?
We don't like to say it makes us old.
Oh no! I would say 1 or 2 years. Is that true?
Does it feel like that?
You say
50 years.
50. I'm married 37. So what's the secret of 50?
patience.
Patience.
At least one. At least one person should have patience.
I'm going home right now. That's
He was only he did
Tolerance.
that. He did that for comedia. He didn't. But that's what's true. You need patience, you need fortitude, but love conquers everything.
That's right.
How many children?
2.
Good, very good. Well, you're a wonderful couple. Enjoy the movie.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to interrupt your evening a little bit. But good luck to you. Another 50 and 150 more.
That's great.
All right.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
We're from the Internal Revenue. We just caught up.
We're from Maryland. We just
Maryland.
came.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
we're from
Very
Maryland.
good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. Now the prices up here in East Hampton are a lot cheaper than Maryland.
Oh no, they're not. No, but we come every year for this film festival.
You do?
Yeah, all the way from Maryland. We used to live on Long Island, so now we come every year.
That's great. And you're married, both of you?
We're married for a long time. Yeah, that's right.
What, your childhood sweetheart? How did you meet?
That's a long story.
Well, actually, we met in Jordan. We were both working in Jordan at the time.
Really?
He worked for GE, and I was a teacher in Jordan.
Wow.
And so we met there.
And it was love at first sight?
Love at first sight.
That's great.
Maybe not quite, but you know, it worked out pretty good. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So you're here online for Loveless.
For Loveless, yes.
And are you a local person, or are you coming from parts unknown?
No, we have a place here.
You do?
We do, yes. And they do the festival every year. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And within the 25 years, what's the most memorable thing that happened to you here at the festival?
At the festival? Not getting in, I guess, in one of the movies. No, that's not.
So you won't be disappointed in a few minutes when you can't. When you can't get. No, it's really simple. It's worth the wait. It's a great movie. But
this is a good. You know about this movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh good.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of them, so I could tell you.
you got it made.
No, it's a good movie. But the.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that it's a good movie. It's a Russian movie, so it's you know.
It's right in style right now.
It is in style. I mean,
That's right. That's right.
You know,
so we shouldn't be ashamed that we're in a
say
Russian
whatever you
movie.
want in the theater. It won't be recorded. I assure you. But
it's also great to see these movies before they're in regular distribution.
Right. And the big secret is on Monday. It's all open to locals for free. You can come in and see different things.
Hello.
Sounds good to me.
Good. All right. Have a great time.
Thank you
I'm
so
sorry
much.
that I bothered you, but.
We were not bothered. It
No,
was
you're
our
not bothered?
pleasure.
I like the way you do your job.
No, it's not easy. I haven't worked in years, but. Well, here we are in front of the East Hampton UA Theater, right here. The marquee says it all. And 25 years ago, if you look up there, they had different sponsors. It was Arrow Shirts, and I think it was American Airlines, a couple of other sponsors long gone. And what you see up there now is, just watch yourself before you get killed, Mr. Cameraman. It typifies what's going on in 25 years. You know, everything's changed, but yet remained the same. The crowds are a lot bigger. Movie fans are a lot more vocal. But today, this movie is The Tribes of Palo Verdes, and the actress Jennifer Garner was here. And it's an amazing thing where we get all of these people clustered. And too bad we couldn't photograph what it was like being on the line. You did, because it's a madness. It's unbelievable. People, it defies physics. I mean, to have people standing in a 1-inch square to try to shoot somebody, and it's terrible. But that's part of the beauty of Hollywood and beauty of the film industry. It's always that type of a thing.
One more right here. You look this way. One more on the end. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much.
How many years have you been coming to the This is my first time, yeah.
What's your impression so far?
I don't even really know yet. I've been here only for a couple hours, but I mean, it's such a beautiful place and also a beautiful time of year, so I can't wait to I don't know, I guess it's so nice to be reunited with the cast and the directors and being able to see Jen again. Yeah, it's just, I guess always the nice part about it.
Yeah, tell me about the cast that I met here in a small town.
Yeah, I think it's really special because it's so intimate and like a very small community, so it's feels a little bit different than like Toronto, which is also a lovely festival, but kind of on a bigger scale. And there's something just yeah, I guess really intimate and nice about the festival here.
Shake it off because you have to go home and raise your kids. Yeah, that's like any other also coming in here. That's world premiere.
I know, it's so exciting. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're here. It's the world premiere.
Yeah. Yes, we're here. It's the world premiere of Tribes of Palos Verdes, and yeah, we're all so excited and excited to be sharing the film with you guys. Yeah, thank you.
Just the way I would any character, you just go into her story and her experience and do the best you can. What does that mean to me? It means the first day of school. It means being here with a film that I love. Just the way I do with any film. I mean, it's emotional in the way that Miracles from Heaven was emotional. It does ask a lot of you in that way. But you shake it off and kind of, luckily you have the drive home to reconstitute yourself, and nobody really has time for you to be emotionally exhausted when you get home if you're taking care of kids. This film, Robbie Brenner produced Dallas Buyers Club, and she came to me with this movie right after that, maybe 5 years ago. And so it is something that we had been working on and then stepping away from and trying to find the right partners for. When we found the Roy brothers, we knew we were ready to go.
Everyone right here?
Can everybody look on this end? Real quick. Over here.
Left side.
Okay.
I'll try here.
All right. Thank you.
It's your first time at the Hamptons?
It is.
Yeah, what do you think?
You got it. Well, when I lived in New York, it was 20-some years ago, and whenever I would take the jitney out to the Hamptons, I couldn't even afford to go to any of the restaurants. So it is nice to come back out and be here with a movie that I love.
And what do you look forward to?
It has been a gorgeous October weekend, and we've walked in and enjoyed.
I've been happy my entire life, and then I came here and it's like, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. My parents are divorced and my mom's gone crazy in the head, so it's basically up to me and my brother. At least it was up to us for a little while. He mixed in with the surf scene fairly easily. The towel girls, the druggies. Eventually I felt invisible to him.